Hello relatives, welcome to this week's Schlag Bite for the week February 8th, 2010, entitled Still Demonizing Marijuana. The federal government still obstructs medical marijuana research. It isn't being done because the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, has a monopoly on the legal supply of marijuana. Marijuana is the only major drug for which the federal government controls the only legal research supply and for which the government requires a special scientific review, which it rarely grants. NIDA sees its role as focusing on the negative consequences of marijuana use. A NIDA spokesperson said, "We generally do not fund research focused on the potential beneficial medical effects of marijuana. Doctors have known marijuana's medicinal qualities for millennia and routinely prescribed it until quite recently for eating disorders, neurological diseases, insomnia, arthritis, digestive diseases. And there are now 14 states that have already legalized the use of medical marijuana. But clinics, doctors, and patients are continually harassed. If we want to study the risk-benefit profile and its abuse potential, then we have to do the research. How have we gotten into this demonizing of marijuana? It all goes back to 1970 when, in one of his first acts as president, Richard Nixon signed into law the Controlled Substances Act. Marijuana was declared a Schedule I drug, along with heroin, ecstasy, LSD, and peyote. This is the only category that prohibits its use whether medically indicated or not. Drugs like cocaine, codeine, oxycontin, and methamphetamine, they landed in the less restrictive Schedule II and III, which permits prescription-based medical use. Congress placed the marijuana in Schedule I only temporarily, though, pending reconsideration when it received a forthcoming report by the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse. Nixon appointed this study group, and when their deliberations were concluded, the commission recommended decriminalizing possession of marijuana for personal use and distribution in private of small amounts of marijuana not involving a profit. When President Nixon heard the committee's recommendations, which we only learned 30 years later when the audio tapes were released, he was livid and demanded, I quote, "a goddamn strong statement on marijuana." He also added an anti-Semitic touch to those actively advocating decriminalization. He said, "You know, it's a funny thing. Every one of the bastards that are out for legalizing marijuana is Jewish. I suppose it's because most of them are psychiatrists. You know, there are so many. All of the great psychiatrists are Jewish." Close quote. President Nixon prevailed. Marijuana stayed in Schedule I, and NIDA and the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, continue to refuse to license legitimate research. If we want good science, we have to fund real science. And we need to get away from this Nixonian marijuana madness that classifies it as an illegal Schedule I drug. Let's follow Nixon's words and finally make a goddamn strong statement on marijuana. It's my thought for this week. Have a great week yourselves. Remember, we're all connected. Nobody makes this alone. I say this for all my relations. Have a great week. Mitakuye.